Good evening, viewers. Welcome to our podcast, Bharat and Geopolitics. Today's topic is exploring the minds of India's adversaries, where we unravel these mysteries and motivation behind those who challenge us. I am your host here, Hari Prakash Sinha. I am thrilled to embark on this intellectual journey with you as we delve into the psyche of individuals, groups who pose challenges to India's interest. In a world shaped by complex geopolitical dynamics, understanding the perspectives and intentions of adversaries is paramount. Through insightful conversation, expert analysis, and in depth research, this podcast aims to shed light on the factors driving adversarial behavior and the implications for India's security, diplomacy, and strategic interests. Join me as we peel back the layers of history, ideology, and geopolitics to gain deeper understanding of the adversaries that shape India's strategic landscape. From neighboring nations to global actors, we will explore the multifaceted dimensions of conflict, competition, and cooperation in the pursuit of national security and regional stability. Whether you are a scholar, a policymaker, or simply curious about the intricacy of international relations, this podcast invites you to expand your perspective and engage in thought provoking discussions on the ever evolving dynamics of global security. Join me in welcoming our distinguished speaker, Dr. Adityanjee. It's a pleasure to have you on our podcast, Dr. Adityanjee. Your expertise and insights are invaluable, and we are excited to dive into our discussions together. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us, with our audience, and let's make this conversation memorable. Welcome, Dr. Adityanjee. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you, Mr. Sinha. Thank you for inviting me on your platform, and we will continue with this discussion.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, with this, I am coming to you my second question. How do India's adversaries perceive and respond to India's growing influence and aspirations for regional and global leadership? And what implication does this have for India's foreign policy and security posture? So, your comment, please.
As we stated that we are talking about, when we are talking about strategic adversaries, we are talking about only two nations. One is nation of Pakistan, second is nation of China.
Right.
Uh, and both have their own reactions, etc. Uh, Pakistan's reaction is predictable.
Yeah.
Pakistan has gone on anti-India propaganda on all the international platforms, whether that is United Nations General Assembly, E5, UN Security Council, whether it's United Nations Human Rights Council, whatever platform, whether it is international platform, whether it is regional platform like OIC,
Yeah.
Organization of Islamic Countries, Pakistan has not failed any international opportunity to criticize and try to bring disrepute to India
Yeah.
on perceived injustices done to Pakistan's favorite minority in India. Pakistan has supported secessionist movements in Indian state of Punjab and Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan is one of the countries that is supporting the farmers' agitations in India. So Pakistan perceives and continues to foster inimical forces against India utilizing non-state actors. That is for true. China has done the same thing, but not in such an overt manner. There was a time China was supporting secessionist groups in India's northeast, was giving them material support, arms, ammunition, and shelter also to secessionist groups in India's northeast. Now, for a period of time, that was restrained a little bit, but one can never be sure about China, what is happening in India's northeast and state of Manipur, well, that is instigated by China. China is playing double game in the country of Myanmar, supporting the government of the military junta in Myanmar while simultaneously, supporting the secessionist rebel tribal groups, and there are multiples of them in Myanmar. So some of them are being encouraged to cross over to India and create mayhem in the state of Manipur. China has not taken very well to India's rise. Also, although China and India on international platforms on some issues have voted together or have converging interests, limited convergence, limited agreement, especially on issues like climate summits, etc. But on all other issues, China has taken actions that are inimical to India, whether that is FATF, whether it is in United Nations committees on terrorism to declare certain individuals that are supported by Pakistan as overt terrorists. China has put hold on that. China and Pakistan both conspired so that India does not get the membership of the United Nations P5. Pakistan and China conspired so that India does not get the membership of the nuclear suppliers group.
Yeah.
China has conspired with other nations, including United States, to deny India participation in APEC. Historically, APEC has become somewhat irrelevant at this point in time, but history must be remembered that it was China and United States that were instrumental in denying India's participation in Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, that is now somewhat irrelevant area. China also has tried to curtail India's influence in BRICS. BRICS started as a four-member nation group, Brazil, India, Russia, and China. China maneuvered to bring South Africa basically to checkmate India, have one more ally whom they could bribe. And after BRICS, now China conspired to enlarge the BRIC alliance into G11. It is right now G10. China is trying to sponsor membership of Pakistan in groupings like BRIC Plus or G10 into G whatever number alliance. Pakistan is being supported by China for membership in G20 nations, which is de facto now G21 with membership of African Union. Again, in other international fora, China has taken very much anti-India attitude, obstructionist attitude in reform of United Nations Security Council, even within the BRICS itself. China maneuvered so that the new development bank, which was proposed by India and it was an Indian project, got headquartered in Shanghai because China had more economic clout. Ideally, as India's originated project, India supported project, it should have been uh, headquartered in Mumbai or New Delhi. Similarly, by enlarging the BRIC from four nations to five nations, including South Africa, China effectively killed a trilateral that India had proposed and was working on, that was IPSA, India, Brazil, and South Africa. Now, with BRIC becoming BRICS, both Brazil and South Africa are there in BRICS. So the need for IPSA was redundant. Now we hardly have meetings of IPSA. So China has been maneuvering in every international forum, just like China has worked upon in India's neighborhood, India's near abroad, by instigating countries like Sri Lanka, now Maldives, has done the same thing with Bangladesh, but Bangladesh current government has been a little bit more pragmatic and did not buy the BRI. Similarly, China is also instigating elements in Nepal.
Yeah.
We all know that. I don't need to repeat it to you. So China is behaving as a hegemon, as a bully, trying to contain India because from China's calculations, the only country that can come between Chinese hegemony in Asia
Is India.
is India. So the perception and responses of these two enemy nations is to try to contain India, try to contain Indian influence, try to break down India, try to create mayhem in India by hook or by crook. China has been interfering in the domestic affairs of India also. I'll give you certain examples. During the COVID crisis, there was a fire in the Pune factory of Serum Institute of India. Do you remember that? That caused
Yeah.
damage worth 1,000 crore in the infrastructure while India was battling with COVID. There was an unexplained fire. Similarly, in Bengaluru, in a Foxconn factory that makes chips, there was industrial unrest. It was supported by leftist unions that are on the payroll of China. China also has a memorandum of understanding signed between Xi Jinping and Rahul Gandhi, which was signed, I think, in 2007.
Yeah.
Every time there is a hostility on the northern border uh, between India and occupied Tibet, between PLA forces and Indian armed forces, there are anti-India statements by certain political leaders belonging to Congress party. I don't have to tell you who try to bring disrepute to India. So China is working in all possible ways to contain the rise of India.
And China is very aggressive in this direction actually to contain India. It is doing
Yes,
everything possible.
well, it's a kind of existential challenge for them to become numero uno in
Yeah.
Asia and in the world, eventually in the world. They have to contain India because the threat to them immediately is India, not United States. United States is sitting thousands of miles away. All United States can do is send bombers and the aircraft carriers, but China is a immediate land border with its occupied province in Tibet, where two armies, you know, stand eyeball to eyeball. So any confrontation with the land forces on the plate of Tibet would be between India and China. China has also created a hydrological warfare with India by building dams on Brahmaputra River and other rivers that are
Yeah.
originating in the Tibetan plateau, in the highlands of Tibet. China creates artificial floods by sometimes releasing too much water in various lakes.
That
China,
happened in Ladakh actually.
in
After
Ladakh and in Himachal Pradesh.
yeah.
Uh, China is trying to divert the water of Brahmaputra River from Tibetan plateau to northern part of deserts in China. So China's threat to India is multidimensional. It should not be taken lightly. China is emerging as a naval force in Indian Ocean. Those people who say that India should not bother about China in Indian Ocean because we are the resident naval power and they have the Malacca dilemma do not realize how devious Chinese thinking is. They are actually developing and creating their capacities, building capacities for 100 years from now, not 10 years, not 5 years. Uh, China did not have experience in aircraft carrier formations. India had very good experience of deploying them, utilizing them, uh, and effectively, sort of training on them and using them in the warfare. In 1998, after the breakdown of the Soviet Union, China purchased in an underhand manner the body of a developing aircraft carrier of Varia class from Ukraine, ostensibly to develop a floating casino for $20 million. It was purchased by a Chinese businessman. By deception, that idea was to develop a floating casino. Once this platform, substantially almost 60 to 65% completed,
Hmm.
docked in China. It was confiscated by the government. No compensation was given to that businessman, and it was developed into China's first aircraft carrier. China has now three, and China is developing the fourth one, and their planning says that they'll have six aircraft carrier formations by 2035, which is not very far away. India has only two, trying to develop only the third one. Uh, Indian aircraft carrier formations have a tonnage of 45,000 trains, uh, whereas Chinese have a displacement of 65,000 tons. So they are bigger aircraft carriers, and I think India should not be remaining complacent. India does need, because China has naval bases,
Hmm.
eventually you will see, just like Chinese submarines are coming in India's neighborhood, Chinese aircraft carriers, once they have six of them, they will be definitely sending them to Indian Ocean. So we need to take the challenge from China very seriously, whether it is on the land, whether that is in air, whether that is in ocean, whether that is in cyberspace, whether that is in terms of disinformation or what is called lawfare, as well as psychological warfare. So there is no dimension that is left untouched by China. And of course, China is giving every modern technology to Pakistan free of cost, so that Pakistan continues to needle India, including now sending Pakistani iconauts to space. China has a space station, and they are training Pakistani iconauts to send to Chinese space station. Uh, you know, so we have to be worried about that.
So for the aircraft carrier, actually, India should join hands with other countries like Japan, South Korea, even Russia, and India can build up aircraft carriers.
India does not at this point in time need any help from those countries. India did purchase uh, INS Vikramaditya, the former Admiral Gorsho from Russia. The experience was not very good. Russia initially said that India can purchase it only for 1 rupee, and the
Yeah.
cost would be only retrofitting, and there were multiple delays, and ultimately the cost ran into billions of dollars, and we have a second-hand aircraft carrier that was purchased from Russia. So let's not forget about that. Russia itself does not have an aircraft carrier at this point in time. That tells you about Russian capability at this point in time. Japan does not have aircraft carriers, although till Second World War they had aircraft carriers. But after the American Force Constitution, they were not supposed to have offensive military, only defensive forces. Japan does have two Iwo class helicopter carriers with a displacement of around 28,000 tons. But yes, India can collaborate with Japan to develop aircraft carriers at other docks, increase capacity in India besides Machgaon dock and the other ones, so that we actually have multiple lines of production. They can be used for domestic Indian naval forces, or they can be exported to Japan. But India has much better, you know, capability at this point in time in building aircraft carrier from conceptualization stage to sea trials and actual deployment of aircraft carriers. Same way with South Korea. So we need to continue to enhance our own capacity and delay the time lag because our decision making processes are slow because of lack of budgetary allocation. So the help we will need investment into developing more capacity building or finances. That is where role of Japan or South Korea, the cash rich
Yeah.
countries can come. But India must plan for a true blue water naval force that is capable of power projection and have maybe 6 aircraft carrier formations between 2035 to 2040 because you know the world does not remain static. The threats do not remain static. Threats grow if they are left unchecked. India will have naval threats coming from China. There's a China has certain choke points. So Malacca dilemma has been cited by Indian naval planners as the reason why China cannot pose threat to India in Indian Ocean. But after developing the Gwadar port and Hambantota Tota port and Chinese submarines surfacing and Chinese research vessels coming in Indian Ocean, China wants to become a resident power in Indian Ocean. They have, I'm just telling you, they have purchased an island from Maldives. And if they have a toehold in one of the islands on India's periphery, they will deploy their ships in a major way. Of course, China is also supporting Thailand in developing the Kra Canal. Now, Kra Canal would be very, very expensive, and there are technological problems in developing that canal. But at least China is one of the countries that is supporting the idea of a land bridge in Thailand across, so that the Andaman Sea and the Bay of Bengal are connected to the South China Sea. Uh, so again, let's not, be very complacent. Let's just like, in post 1947 era, we were complacent. Oh, China is a friendly country. We Hindi Chini bye bye. And we
Yeah.
can never expect Chinese to, send their forces across the plateau of Tibet into India. I think our policy planners are being foolish, being short sighted by not perceiving the naval threat that is coming from China. China's plan is to have what is called TSN, 1,000 ships navy. At this point in time, China's plan, which is People's Liberation Army's Navy plan, is the largest navy in terms of assets, even larger than United States. Their rate of shipbuilding is very, very high, and we are very because we have budgetary problems, we have governance problems, we have decision-making problems, we have a very entrenched opposition that always questions the government for every step taken. But there is need for reawakening at all steps so that Indian Navy's expansion is not cut. Yes, we need more nuclear powered submarines, there's no doubt. It's not a question of either or. India needs to spend money, rupees, on both nuclear powered submarines as well as on more aircraft carrier formations to deal with Chinese threat. China has a contract approved from United Nations to do seabed mining in Indian Ocean, deep seabed mining in India. So look at every step.
But this mining is just in the international waters.
It is international waters, but the point I'm trying to make that China is creeping. China has this way of changing the history and maps, just like nine dash line. All these islands in the South China Sea, they were never Chinese possessions. Now China claims them as Chinese. China is claiming Arunachal Pradesh as Chinese territory as part of quote unquote southern Tibet, or they have given a new name called Zangam. China will claim at one point in time that they are a Indian Ocean power. They are resident power. They already say that Indian Ocean is not India's ocean.
Yeah.
But they say South China Sea is China's lake, private lake. China is saying now that they are a near Arctic power, so they should be actually a member of the Arctic Circle. China's claims are fantastic. They create legal maneuvers by deception, by information warfare. So again, don't take it lightly that it is the deep seabed mining is in. They will not stop at that. They are trying to encircle India, or they have already encircled India. Let me put it this way: not trying to encircle, they have already encircled India.
Yes, yes, it is. They are present in Sri Lanka, they are present in Bangladesh, they are present in Myanmar, they are present in Maldives.
In Cambodia, they are present in Djibouti. They have a naval base in Djibouti and in Gwadar in Pakistan.
Yeah.
They are trying to build some inroads into Chabar.
So India needs to work in this direction to counter China very aggressively.
Yes, we need to develop naval bases.
Hmm. So what should be the roadmap to counter China? Not, I am not talking about Pakistan so much because the Pakistan doesn't have so much of inner strength actually. They are just surviving.
There is an asymmetry between India's defense outlay and China's military budget.
Yeah.
China's military budget unofficial is around $280 billion. That is, there is some opacity in Chinese funding process and budgetary allocations. The Western experts are that Chinese military budget may be 1.5 times more than what China actually claims. So in 2004, 2005, there was some sort of parity between India's military budget versus Chinese military budget. So Chinese military budget would be initially $33 billion and Indian budget would be around $25 billion, US billion dollars. And India for almost 10 years remained very stuck. There was hardly any growth in defense budget. Uh, I think we are talking about now $74 billion defense budget. I think we need to eliminate waste, eliminate corruption in the domestic economy, and whatever savings are done, rather than giving freebies to everyone, the money that is saved from eliminating corruption, from eliminating wastage, from eliminating government bureaucracy that is redundant. All those savings should go towards defense budget. And one important thing, large chunk of India's defense budget goes into paying pensions.
Right. That you have mentioned several times.
I mentioned it several times. It is a real problem. Pensions need to be separated from defense budget. The central government create a department of pensions for defense employees, for central government employees of any variety, whether they are IAS, IFS, CGS, employees, all government employees of the central government, their pensions should come through one line item, that is Department of Pensions, rather than through other outlays, so that defense budget goes towards active defense. United States has the same tradition. There's a defense budget and there's a budget for veterans. There's a Department of Veterans Affairs, which has a separate budget. So the defense budget does not include the upkeep, the welfare of the ex-servicemen, their healthcare needs, their disability payments. They are all going through a different line item in the federal budget, which is Department of Veterans Affairs. And I think this is a good way of protecting the actual defense budget. India also needs to develop its own military industrial complex in a major way.
Yeah.
We were very laggard in that area, but I'm very happy to say that in last 10 years under Make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, there have been some restructuring. The ordnance factories have been, restructured into 5 separate companies, under private public partnership mode. DRDO has been re-energized. Previously, DRDO used to take years and years to develop technology,
Yeah.
and to implement that technology into actual production was another challenge. And it was challenged because of the kickbacks and commissions by the middlemen, or what in Hindi is called dalals,
Yeah.
defense contractors. All that is being eliminated.
Yeah. Yeah.
If at all government purchases something, that is by direct government to government sale, so that middlemen are eliminated. But we need a vibrant defense military industrial complex and a public private partnership model. We need to have more domestic companies participate in the offsets programs, so that we develop, a vibrant private sector companies that also part in nation's defense, and at the time of need boost of the production of the ammunitions and defense assets, our ammunition and our weapons, in a major way. No nation becomes a superpower by relying on imports.
Right. So, sir, I have only 5 minutes of time left, and I have one interesting question that's on my mind. For
Sure, go ahead.
So, China is trying so hard. I mean, this tooth and nail. China is trying to build the military power.
Hmm.
With the military power, it aims to control India, contain India, and contain the world actually. So, is the military power everything? How much do you think China can succeed just by focusing on military power?
Well, China's capability is not to be scoffed at, although there is a lot of corruption in Chinese military. That you saw that Xi Jinping fired the defense minister. He fired 2 commanders of PLA rocket force because of endemic corruption in China. So that is their problem. Current Chinese military leaders have talked about that their military has had claimed to have capabilities when none existed, or poorly formed capabilities were there. Chinese armed forces are not battle hardened. The last time they fought a hot war was in 1979 against Vietnam. They wanted to teach a lesson to Vietnam, but they got a bloody nose in that process. Remember, they used the same terminology in 1962 that they wanted to teach a lesson to India. Situation has changed from that time. Indian armed forces are not the forces of 1962. Having said that, we can never be overconfident because
Yeah.
China is much bigger power
Yeah.
economically and militarily. It's the economy of the scales. If you have much more money at your disposal, which China has, they have, if you include Hong Kong as part of China, they have a foreign exchange reserve of more than $4 trillion. Our foreign exchange reserves are around $640 billion at this point in time.
I see.
One fourth of Chinese foreign exchange reserves. So they can actually spend more money in developing military bases, buying ammunition, uh, having intercontinental ballistic missiles. Now with the Agni 5, with MERV capability, we are able to reach every aspect, every country in China. That is true. But you cannot stop. You have to have continued modernization of India's military forces, India's manufacturing capability, and look into other areas like cyber defense or space.
Yeah.
Now we have a uh, space agency also. We developed finally ASAT capability because those are the areas that are going to be governing future wars. Just like suddenly you see that in Ukraine, Russia war,
Yeah.
major role is being played by UAVs.
Yeah.
This is the first war in which UAVs are deployed to the maximum.
Yeah.
Uh, United States is alleging that Russian Federation is developing, killer satellites and all that sort of thing, nuclear weapons in space, etc., etc. Do you think China is far behind?
No.
So you take your national security at your own peril if you are short-sighted and say we don't have anything, we'll see it when the challenge comes. You need to plan for
So,
50, 100 years.
sorry to interrupt you, sir. We have less than 1 minute time remaining. So I am just wrapping up this session. Then we'll meet up next whenever you are free.
Okay, no problems.
Okay, thank you, viewers. Thank you so much for your time. This was really a very enlightening session. With this, we wrap up this episode. Thank you for joining us on this insightful journey. Remember to subscribe for more enriching conversation. Until next time, stay curious, keep exploring. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Adityanjee.
Mr. Sinha. Good to talk to you.
Thank you, sir.